You're gonna tell us when. Oh. Hi there, this is Lance with Les Bailey and Associates, and there's.
Hi, I'm Erik from Real Property Management. We've got Tracy from Residential Mortgage.
Hi guys.
And this is Alaska Real Estate Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the Alaskan economy because that's been there's been a lot of talk about it, and we all three talked about how we've had a lot of clients coming to us kind of in this state of panic of, you know, is the sky falling? Is things
Where are we at? What's going on?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like most of the most of the listing appointments I'm going on for sellers, a lot of their questions are centered around: is now a good time to sell? They feel like is our economy going to go back to the 80s? Are we going to tank? Is the market going to hell in a handbasket? And I'm having to have real conversations around that.
And the main reason they're asking that is because of the news of all the oil jobs.
Oh yeah.
Lost.
You know, it's the doom and gloom of the media, and in reality, it's not going to hell in a handbasket.
I just don't. We track our data really, really closely as far as what dollar per square foot rent prices are doing for properties. How many properties are we renting? And we'll even look at the less scientific stuff, like what sort of the behavioral patterns are we seeing? And was there an effect? Yeah, you could see a shift in the market a little bit, but I don't know that it was I don't want to be Pollyanna about it, but at the same time, it wasn't the, oh my God, the sky's falling, that it was kind of made out to be.
Yeah, on average, our unemployment rate's 5%. Right now, we're at 6.5%. We're not talking about a huge difference in unemployment numbers.
Yeah, you know, the oil industry has had more, layoffs, higher percentage than that 1.5% difference in our average from 5% to 6.5%. They've had more, but what that's showing is a lot of the layoffs in the oil industry, a lot of them don't even live up here. They're out-of-staters, and then a lot of the ones that do live up here, they've been absorbed into other industries. They're getting jobs elsewhere. Yeah. So it's not as bad as it was in the 80s. In the 80s, our economy was solely, for the most part, relied on oil. It was all oil.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, we've got all these other industries. We've got fishing, we've got tourism, we've got healthcare.
Healthcare is huge up here.
Yeah.
I know out there in the valley, the Matsu Regionals, they can't get enough nurses and enough doctors out there.
We fill all of our short-term rentals over the summer. Probably about 80% of those will be nurses. Yeah. Because that's when everybody's coming out of the villages, come get that, get whatever big appointment they had, and they just, we'll fill them.
I can't even tell you how many applications I did for people buying new houses last year that were brought up here in the nursing industry.
Yep.
Yeah.
And straight out of school too.
Yeah.
Just straight out of school. I remember seeing that right about, it was like in December when I was a leasing agent, and I just nurse. Every showing was a nurse. And I asked a nurse friend, and I said, what is this? He said, oh yeah, that's right about the time they graduate school, they finished everything up, and then they go flood into the, into the job market.
Right.
But I actually brought some stats I wanted to kind of touch on. So like I was saying, we track our dollar per square foot, and
this is for rentals.
This is for rentals, right? This is dollar per square foot per month on a per month basis, and what we saw was about an 8 to 10 cent drop per square foot. Not exactly huge. Now, so I did the math just before we started, and I looked at what's the average square footage of a rental that we've managed. Okay, it's just over 1,100 square feet. So really, the whole rent drop, right? Everything, falling down.
What time frame are you talking about?
It was from March of 2015 to March of 2017.
Okay.
So 2-year period.
Over a 2-year span, right? We've only seen an 8 to 10% drop. That only comes out to $88 is what the math I did on an average rent price. That's really not that bad.
Yeah.
If you bought a fourplex and you can't survive an $88 drop on rents,
you weren't not in a good cash flow position to begin with.
Shouldn't have bought it in the first place.
That was not a good investment.
Right, and so, we've seen some behavioral changes. Like we'll see where younger couples, it's been really interesting to watch. You'll see younger couples in their like mid to late 20s, and they'll hook up with another younger couple, and they'll go rent a higher end home, because now those higher end homes were the hardest hit, right? Because who was renting the $2,900 a month place? It was oil money that was only going to be up here for a year or two. But now what we're seeing is those renters are getting replaced with maybe 2 small families that'll go rent it, which is great, right? Because
Yeah.
what's the likelihood that everyone's going to want to move all at once? Very unlikely. So
Right.
for the homeowner, that means longer leases, which is also good
That's
too.
interesting. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, most of the conversations I'm having with sellers is it's I think it was brought up one of these Facebook Live episodes a couple of weeks ago when we attended the Ted Jones presentation. He's the lead economist for Stewart Title, and he said that there's 6,000 new jobs coming to Alaska, that they're all going up to Fairbanks.
Yeah.
So they're not coming here to Anchorage.
It's the whole F-35.
Yeah.
thing, probably, yeah.
So with that said, though, we're not having a huge drop in the employment. We are, but it's not crazy, and so with with sellers, when you look at what the interest rates are doing for a buyer and what things are selling for, I think here now and over the next year or two is going to be one of the best times to sell.
I agree, because the
If you need to
market
sell.
has been increasing, like we talked earlier. It's going to level out, and then it's going to go down again. You don't just increase forever.
Didn't the Feds just announce today an interest rate change? Or they're looking at an interest rate change?
I didn't hear that, but that is a big misconception and maybe a topic for another show. The prime interest rate is normally what they talk about when they're going to increase or decrease that, and that directly affects your credit card,
Home loans,
not
home loans, but car loans. Yeah.
Right, and there's so many other factors that go into the mortgage interest rate. So yes, that's one little tiny factor that goes into a mortgage interest rate, but the biggest thing is, when you see the stock market increase and it's increasing daily, rates are normally going to follow because the economy's doing good, and then the mortgage rates start going up, and vice versa. When the stock market starts going down, you see the rates start to follow as well. Nationally, our stock market's doing really good right now.
Yeah.
This last week, the interest rates for the mortgages have been increasing almost 1/8% a day.
Yeah.
So,
I've been watching them. They've been creeping up, and honestly, even 4.25, we're 4.5. Even if we're 5% or 5.25, 5.5. Historically, those are great interest rates.
Anywhere between 5
Right.
and 7% is good for the economy.
Yeah.
That means our economy is doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it does do, though, is it takes buying power out of the average buyer. On a $400,000 house, if you go from a full percent increase, that's a lot of buying power you lose.
And that goes back to one of our past episodes too. We have a chart that shows you the difference in buying power for your.
But bottom line, and what I'm telling sellers is real estate's cyclical. It's always been cyclical.
Just like the economy.
Just like the economy. Real estate is typically on a 7 to 10 year cycle. When was the last time we saw our market dip? It was about the end of 2006. It was well into 2007, 8, 9, 10. What year are we? 2017.
Right.
It started to go back up around 2010, the end of 2010, so 7 years. So if it's on a 7 or 10 year cycle, that tells me the next year to 3 years, we're getting to that point where the market's probably going to come up and flatten out and then start to go down. But real estate never just always goes up. But it never, good thing is it never always goes down. It usually kind of goes up and then it flattens out and then goes down, but it doesn't go back down usually to below the low, and then it'll go back up. And so over time, real estate's always outperformed the stock market. It has always been
and you can do something about it. You can't walk into Coca-Cola and say, you need to sell more cans of Coca-Cola. No. But you can walk into your fourplex and you can go paint, carpet, light fixtures, and actually do something about the performance of your property. The same thing with when you're selling, right? Spend a few weekends getting it looking nicer before you put it up on the market. You can directly affect that. Good luck trying to do that with a stock price.
Well, I tell people all the time, when it comes to selling, we have a pricing war going on. At the same time, we have a beauty contest going on. So we have to win the pricing war and the beauty contest in order to sell for the most amount of money. If you don't want to focus on the beauty contest, we can overcome that by lowering the price.
Price.
Price
Yeah.
can always overcome anything in real estate, but if you want top dollar or want more money for your property, get it in, you know, tip-top shape.
Yep.
Stage it. And
Stage it, yeah.
there's so many little things that you can do to make your house look.
And a couple $100 worth of paint
Yeah.
to a seller is only a couple $100. When a buyer walks in there and they see that it needs paint, in their mind, that's like
Thousands.
$10,000 worth of work to fix
Yeah.
that.
Especially
you
a
know?
new home buyer that's never done
Exactly.
that.
So if
Yeah.
you're a seller and you know you got to do some paint that place, get it looking good. Don't use the excuse, well, I want, you know, what a buyer might want to pick their paint colors. Use a neutral color and make it look nice, because you'll get more money in the end.
And on the buyer's end, I mean, they're already having to come in with a down payment, and they're strapped as it is. I
Yeah.
mean, not a whole lot of people have the money saved up that they need to have saved up to.
Mhm.
And so you're right, $200 is a lot of money to them, or even
Yeah.
if they're thinking it would cost more, and it's not
And
as much to a seller.
It's interesting how much you said right there also mirrored exactly what the rental market's doing.
Mhm.
Is that back in 14, 15, it was, man, we had tenants thank us for only $100 rent raise. I mean, the way
Yeah.
things were going, right?
Yeah.
Now it's the properties are competing for tenants now. And so you got to remember that there's this thing that I'm trying to, this misconception that we were always trying to kill, which is, well, it's just a rental. It's just a rental. I don't need to do that. It's just a rental. Yes, you do. Because the tenant doesn't have the option to paint. Now that buyer
Mhm.
can walk in and go, it's okay, but I'm going to paint it blue, right?
Yeah.
Tenants can't do that. And so it needs to be in better shape the day the
Sure.
tenant walks
Yeah.
in. And gosh, that's so, on a 1,000 square foot apartment, that's so darn cheap. It's so darn cheap. And you know what's the cheapest thing that most people overlook on getting the rental properties competitive? Clean. And I mean clean.
And even if you don't want to clean it yourself, again, it's a couple, maybe 150,
few hundred
200
It's
bucks
that
to
beauty
hire.
contest. You know, I even go so far as to tell some people, you know, when I was in the military, they had white glove inspections.
Mhm.
You were in the military.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they'd come in, they'd put their white gloves on, and they'd touch the top of our drawer, you know, dressers, and if they could see any dust on them, then we got dinged.
Yep.
I tell people that, you know, think of it as a white glove inspection when you're preparing
Yep.
your home to sell. And go as far as wiping down the top of your furnace and your water heater in your
Yes.
mechanical room where you haven't been, you know, but maybe once or
Sure,
twice a year.
because even though it's not a brand new house, it's brand new to the person
Yes.
that's buying it, and they
Yes.
want it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or renting it, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yep. You have never seen Picky like a 21-year-old brand new mom walking
Right,
into an
yeah.
apartment complex.
Any brand new mom.
Yeah, because she's gonna open the dishwasher and that little smuts that you get right on the top,
That's
she'll
so
find that.
funny,
Yeah,
right?
it needs to be
Yeah.
clean, and if it can pass an inspection by her, it's game on. You're
Isn't
doing
that
good.
funny though? Like one of the cheapest things you can do is the biggest.
This is the one that's overlooked all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they can clean it themselves, but they don't want to. That's
No.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You live in a generation, I mean, the older generation, I think they weren't afraid to roll up their sleeves and get their, you know, hands dirty.
Mhm.
We now have an entire society of buyers and whatnot that want just move in ready. They do not want to move in and have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
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 That's-
Progression with the times.
Yeah.
Well, I think with that, let's wrap things up. So thanks for joining us on Alaska Real Estate Talk. Again, please share and like the page, and we all really like your suggestions. If there's a topic you'd like to see us discuss, jump in there, give us a comment, and we can dive into it for you.
And
Thanks.
join us every Wednesday. We're here every week now. Also, I wanted to touch base really quick and let you guys know there's a job fair, speaking of the economy, at the end of the month, March 29th at the Alaska Airlines Center.
Yep.
And Nani will be back next week. She's down in California at the Pan American Games with her husband for jiu-jitsu. So hopefully she's having fun down there. That's why you got me this week.
Yeah, we had to downgrade. All right, thanks.
That went a lot faster than I thought it would.
How do we do